Hey everybody, Mr. Vegan Prepper here today with another gear review, and I have to start out with a confession. I broke the 11th commandment. Do not covet thy neighbor's knife. I have a new everyday carry knife. It is the Ritter RSK Mk1-G2. A friend of mine had one of these knives, and I was so impressed with it that I just had to have one. So I guess that's a spoiler that I like this knife. So I'm going to get into things I like and things I dislike. But first, let's talk a little bit about the knife itself. It's made by Hogue Knives, and it's got a 20 CV blade. If you guys are into blade steel trivia, I guess. 20 CV is on the edge retention side of the scale. So it's got a very durable edge. But it is a bit harder to sharpen. So diamond sharpener is awesome for this, brings a nice edge back to it relatively easily. It's got G10 scales. I went with the orange ones because I like to put my knife down places, and you know, one day I'll learn to put it back in my pocket, but for now it's nice and orange so I can find it. It's got the Able lock, which is very similar to the axis lock. If you look at it, it basically looks like an axis lock. Able lock is ABLE, ambidextrous bar lock enhanced. So axis lock plus. I've never owned a Benchmade knives. I have used a lot of Benchmade knives, and I have used the axis lock a bunch of times, and it feels very similar. So take that technology from the axis lock and enhance it just a little bit, and you got this sucker, and it works well. So yeah, that's about the knife. Let's talk about the things I like. I like the lock. It's great. The axis lock is great, and this Able lock is great. You can operate it from either side. I can use just my thumb, I can use just my index finger, I can use both. It's easy to use, it works well, it locks up real solid, it holds the blade closed real solid, and it's a joy. This lock really is the reason that I no longer am carrying my Spyderco Mk1-G2 every day, because the lock on the Spyderco Mk1-G2 is, in my opinion, not very good, and this lock is very good. So the total package of the knife works very well with this lock. Now, combining that lock with the action on the knife, which is the next thing I want to talk about that I like, you get an incredibly smooth blade travel. So if you fully unlock this knife, the blade swings completely freely. So I have never had a knife that is that smooth to use. It's incredible. The manufacturing on this knife is so good, and that there's no slop to the blade either. So it's not like it's really smooth because it's sloppy. There's no slop in the blade at all. Unlocked, locked, there's no slop in the blade. It's a very solid manufacturing this knife. It's really incredible what they were able to do with that smooth action on that blade. So I really like that. I really like the lock, and the last thing I'll talk about that I like is the edge retention. I did talk about the 20 CV blade. I don't have to sharpen the knife very often, and that's pretty cool. I do like to keep my knife on the very sharp side. I like a shaving sharp knife, so I'll run it over a stone at least once a week just to keep it nice and happy. So when I go to cut through something, it cuts through it. I don't like tearing a package with my knife. I don't like that. So you don't have to sharpen it very much. I do sharpen it occasionally just because I like it to be nice and sharp. But the edge retention is very good on this. So now let's get into the things that I don't like. These are not deal breaker things. Obviously it lives in my pocket now, and it's lived there for over 6 months. So nothing about them do I hate so badly that I don't want to carry the knife. But first thing is the pocket clip. And it's just not great. Again, it's not a deal breaker, but I feel like the shape of it's not great, and it could have been done better. Maybe a little bit longer. It's like a deep carry clip, but it's not very deep. If I'm going to have a deep carry clip, I kind of like the whole knife to be inside my pocket. The top of the knife still sticks out. So eventually I will put a different clip on it. Clips are readily available. Actually they're Benchmade clips. If you get a Benchmade clip, it will go right on there. So a lot of options available for that. The next thing I will talk about that I didn't like is how rough the G10 scales were when I first got this knife. This knife would shred your pocket, and it would shred your hand. When I would put my hand into my pocket to get something else, and my hand would run across this scale here, this corner was shredding my hand. So I have like all these scratches on my hand from my knife in my pocket. So I took a piece of 400 grit sandpaper, went over the whole knife, went over these corners really well to round those out. And I don't know why they thought that you had to make this thing so rough. You could have been underwater in freezing cold temperatures and you'd be able to hold onto this knife. You could have mud on your hands and be able to hold on the knife. It was crazy. So smoothing that finish out saves my pocket, saves my hand, and makes the knife a lot more comfortable to use and more pleasant to have in my pocket. So easy fix. Took me less than 5 minutes to fix it, but it was necessary. And then the last thing, not the last thing, one of the last things, again, these aren't like horrible, but the open structure of the knife, this thing will fill with pocket lint like crazy. I've never had a knife that will hold pocket lint like this one does. It actually has pocket lint right now. But something about having that open back on it, it likes to collect pocket lint. It's not a big deal. It's just something to note. And then the last thing that I dislike, and it's like a half dislike, it's like a downfall of how smooth this knife is. Under certain circumstances, when you close the knife, and I'm not going to be able to get it to do it on camera, because it's like so random, it's not going to do it on camera. Basically, the blade bounces. Because this action is so smooth, when it comes in, it bounces, and it will land right there. So I'll have the knife over here, I'll go to close it, and it'll bounce, and then I have a knife like this going back into my pocket, which is not ideal. So it's kind of become second nature to take a quick glance at the knife to make sure the blade is closed before I shove it in my pocket, partially opened. So I am getting more muscle memory on closing the knife to where I will close it more like this, so I know if the knife bounces, it's going to come back and settle down. But it happens enough that I figured I would mention it, because again, it's just a weird thing. It's like a downfall of how great this knife is, that it will occasionally bounce the blade back out. That, you know, could be dangerous if I shoved it back in my pocket with the blade open. Should be not a very good thing. So, in closing, this is an awesome knife. I really like it. I'm going to put a different clip on it, and then it will be even better. So, go check out KnifeWorks. Check out this knife, and if you guys have any questions about it, you have any comments, please post them below. And please like the video if you liked it, and please subscribe, and I will keep these gear reviews coming your way. Thanks, guys.